all you poor workers, good news to you I'll tell, how the good old Union has come in here to dwell. Which side are you on, boy? Which side are you on? If you go to Harlan County, there are no neutrals there. You'll either be a Union man or a thug for J.H. Blair. Which side are you on, girl? Which side are you on? So that was Florence Reese of the Harlan County, Bloody Harlan of the 70s. She had also said you can only lose your chains but gain yourself a union. You might get shot, but they can't shoot the union out of you. So R.I.P. Florence Reese. Couple news tidbits. AOC says that immigrants are more American than Derner J. Kuntz. Border Protection Union is suing Trump for missed paycheck, and the IRS says that they're going to issue the refunds in spite of the shutdown since that was a concern. So to understand the immigration issue, first question we got to answer ourselves is, who are we? When we say American, what people are we talking about? Specifically, who, what, when, where? So specifically, America is these 50 nifty United States, our territories, and our military bases and U.S. embassies. There are 329 million Americans. This is as of November 8th, 2018. 82% of Americans live in cities and suburbs. Male life expectancy is 78 years of age. Female life expectancy is 82 years of age. Each woman has about 1.7 children. There is no national language. 79% speak English. 13% speak Spanish, and then others. The NFL is 70% black. 90% of black folks live in the Deep South, ironically. 97% of all Americans constitute of one singular race. So pay attention, okay? So there's 334 million lily white Americans. 234 million, which makes up 73%. Now this is the U.S. Census. The U.S. Census doesn't include Hispanics as its own race. So it only talks about black and white, and then a huge swath is Hispanic, and that adds up to over 100%. So 73% of Americans are lily white, so they only constitute one race, 234 million. 40 million of the black folks are Don Cheadle blacks, because again, 97% of Americans constitute one race. So that means the whites are Lily Snow White, and then the blacks are dark as night, Don Cheadle black. So 40 million black folks, 234 million white folks, 73% white, 13% black, 1% American Indian, 5% Asian, 5% other, 2 or more is 3%, white and black is 1%. So 1% is mixed. Out of all the Americans, out of everything, we're a salad bowl. We're not a melting pot. We are self-segregating into our own tribes. It's tribalism. So 1 fucking percent is mixed. 1% is white and black. I'm white and black. So I'm part of that 1%. So that's absolutely shameful. 54 million Hispanics is what the U.S. Census has added up. And again, this is more than 100%, so we got to really pay attention to these numbers, but it's only over by 4%. So the way that it breaks down is you got 40 million black folks, which is 13% of the population, right? So out of 100 people, 13 of them are going to be black, 16 are going to be Hispanic, and then 73 is going to be white. So again, it's 104, but the Hispanic isn't a race, and so that kind of throws a little wrench into the entire system. This is important because eventually by 2045, in 26 years, lily white America isn't going to be lily white no more. They won't be the majority compared to those people, you know, of color. So when you put the Hispanics and black folks together, right now they add up to 29% versus 73%, so about 70%, 30%. So that's quite a jump, to be honest with you. That means 40%, 20%. We're going to see 20% of whites go down, and then 20% of people of color going up. The United States, in terms of religion, 74% of Americans are Christian. 74%. 3 out of 4 Americans are Christian. So there is no war on Christmas. Well, not until Bill O'Reilly said there was, and he kept on being a dick about it. And I'm like, you know what? Christmas is fucking bullshit. But there wasn't a war on drugs, or a war on Christmas. The war on drugs is bullshit, and the war on terror is bullshit. How come we don't have a war on poverty? So 74% of America is Christian, 3 out of 4. So man, that war on Christmas is not succeeding. 3 out of 4. If you see 100 Americans, 74 of them are going to be Christian, and then out of those Christians, 49% are Protestants. So half of the Christians are Protestant, and then 23% of the Christians are Roman Catholics, and then 2% are Mormons. So you got a sizable chunk of Mormonism. The Roman Catholics are 1/4 of all the Christians, and then the Protestants make up, half. So half of the Christians are Protestants. The other religions, Judaism is 2%, Islam is 1%, 3% is other Christian religion, which is other, and then 24% or so is unaffiliated, 3% didn't answer. So there's about 20%. Out of all the Americans, sure, 74% is Christian, but you got 20% who are atheist. So that's 20% atheist. That would make up the biggest subgroup of, in terms of, it's not a religion, it's a non-delusional. What religion am I? I'm non-delusional. I'm not fucking stupid. I'm not a goddamn fucking idiot. I'm not a moron. I don't just believe in shit just because, it was beat into me by my religious yet violent psycho. Anyways, 74% Christian, 49% Protestant. So the Protestant would be the biggest subgroup would be Protestant. The biggest group is Christian, but if you break it all down into pieces, then the Protestants would make up a bigger proportion of the population than the atheists, and then the Roman Catholics and the atheists are about the same. And then the atheists would actually be third behind Roman Catholics and Protestants, and Mormonism, Islam, Judaism, other Christian religions would make a distant fourth. Okay, so that's America, right? So very white, right? Very lily white, only pure white bread white, and then very dark black dark. And then some Asians, 5% Asians, 5% others. 1% is mixed, which is fucking shameful. And, yeah, so 329 million Americans total. And that's all we need. Okay, so 329 million Americans. That actually makes us one of the most populous countries in the world. I think third behind China and India, who have 1.4 billion and 1.3 billion people. So there's 5 more Chinamen than there are Americans, and 4 or 5 more Indians than there are Americans. We also have the number 2 top economy in the world behind China. So China's beaten us in population, and China has beaten us in the economic terms, but we're beating India, right? India's got all those people, but somehow us 329 million Americans are beating economically beating the shit out of the 1.3 billion Indians. Now, then, speaking of the Chinese, that's a civilization that's been around for a long-ass time. The Chinese, according to Donald Trump, are a bunch of motherfuckers, right? So it's okay for him to call, people Kaepernick, son of a bitch, and motherfucker this and motherfucker that, right? So he calls the Chinese motherfuckers, so he's allowed to go ahead and, be a sailor, talk like a sailor, but because that one lady said something about, we're going to impeach this motherfucker, well, I don't think that calling a motherfucker is disrespectful. In fact, that's accurate, right? You should call motherfuckers motherfuckers. It's actually disrespectful to call this motherfucker President Dick Cheese, okay? So actually, I've been calling him President Dick Cheese, so actually, I have grown up a little bit. During Baby Bush's tenure, his 8 years, I was just so delusioned I wouldn't even acknowledge that Baby Bush was my president. Now, Donald is the president of the United States. That's just the reality of the situation. But as of now, the way I look at things now is I refuse to follow any order that he commands. I'm free, right? We have a 3-branch system of government. He signs the laws. He's not a general, and I'm not part of the, corporate machine. He's not the boss, and I don't have to follow his orders. Do this, do that. Nah, I ain't got to do that shit. You just sit on your Oval Office desk and you sign your bills. That's your job, to sign the bills. So, the President Dick Cheese, I've grown up a little bit, right? He's not, I acknowledge that he's the president, but he's President Dick Cheese. I'm American by birth, revolutionary by the awful grace of God. The universe is my home, all beings are my tribe, and oneness is my religion. There are 26 United States, American states. Of the 15 nifty United States, the majority are named after Native American words. So here's just a list of all the U.S. states that are named after Native American words. Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Connecticut, Hawaii, Idaho, Illinois, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, Mississippi, Missouri, Nebraska, New Mexico, Ohio, Oklahoma, South and North Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. North, south, east, west. In my honest opinion, Colorado is the best of the 50 nifty United States. From the 13 original colonies, shout 'em, all about 'em. One by one to be... Okay, so that's, 26 of the 50 nifty United States were named after Native American words. So a Native American genocide happened. This is stolen land. 10 to 100 million Native Americans have been genocided. There is historical justification to reverse that trend, but they also have reservations, and I didn't do nothing, so I'm opposed to white genocide. I think the way you go forward from here is you start acting right. The problem with the black slavery and the Native American genocide was we weren't integrating people. We weren't saying, this is for everybody. Let's, live in the same community. Instead, we had, differing ideas on how to solve those two problems, which are major fucking, blights in American history. So there's 50 nifty United States, 26 of them are named after Native American words, 329 million Americans, the U.S. military bases and U.S. embassies also are included, and the 16 territories. 5 of the territories vote in the Democratic primaries. 2 of the total 16 territories are disputed. So we got 16 territories. We also got a shit ton of military bases and a shit ton of U.S. embassies. So let's just, a couple of the military bases. We got a military base in Cuba, Guantanamo Bay, and Djibouti. That's our main, is it Djibouti? I think there's another one over there. But Djibouti, we definitely have a military base in Djibouti. But there was a big country where the Al Jazeera is at, Qatar. So I think there's American bases in Qatar too. Somalia, Iraq, Sudan, Cameroon, Kuwait, Germany, Japan. We got military bases all over the place. So the 16 territories of the United States. So this is what, when we talk about Americans, we're talking about all of our territories. We're talking about all of our military bases. If somebody is born of an American on a military base, then they're Americans. There are 5 of the territories that make the, birthright citizenship extends the American citizenship to them. Really, all of our territories should have birthright citizenship. That would be a good way to win hearts and minds. We've conquered them, right? So we got the conquerors, the right of conquest or some shit, that's not a right. You do not have a right to conquer other nations. Maybe 300 years ago, before anybody knew what the fuck was going on. 16 territories that are part of the American Empire. They are the American Samoa, Bajo Nuevo Bank, and this is the one that's disputed. Colombia claims ownership of Bajo Nuevo Bank and Serranía Bank. So both Serranía Bank and Bajo Nuevo Bank, the International Court of Justice says that Colombia is the one that actually controls them. So those are the one that's disputed. I guess we got military people there. The Serranía Bank is a partially submerged reef, so we're out there fighting for a partially submerged reef. And then there's a bunch of small uninhabited islets. And an islet is a teensy tiny island. So Baker Island, Howland Island, Guam, the indigenous people of Guam are called the Chamorros. You got the Jarvis Island, Johnston Atoll, Kingman Reef, Midway Islands, Navassa Island, Northern Mariana Islands, Palmyra Atoll, Puerto Rico, Serenilla Bank, U.S. Virgin Islands, and Wake Island. So just reading them real quick again, because I know most Americans don't know any of this. They don't even know we're an empire, let alone all the 16 territories, which just directly says we're an empire. You know, the military base, maybe you could just say, well, we're not controlling the country, we're just controlling that little corner of the country. But the territories, this is why we're an empire. We've been an empire since 1898, since the Spanish-American War. We took on 5, Puerto Rico, Guam, the Philippines, and Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands. We took on, 4 or 5 islands, so that's when we became a colony. So again, the 16 territories of the United States of America are American Samoa, Bajo Nuevo Bank, the Baker Island, Howland Island, Guam, Jarvis Island, Johnston Atoll, Kingman Reef, Midway Islands, Navassa Island, Northern Mariana Islands, Palmyra Atoll, Puerto Rico, Serenilla Bank, U.S. Virgin Islands, and Wake Island. So what gives Americans the right to call themselves Americans? Why are Americans Americans and the immigrants are not? There's only one reason why all 329 million Americans are Americans, and that's because of the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment gives all Americans birthright citizenship. So as long as you were born on this soil, if a woman is 9 months pregnant, she hurries up and she gets into Kansas and she plops a baby out, comes out of her vagina over the soil of Kansas. No matter who that woman is, no matter where she came from, that baby is an American. And that's all the 329 million Americans have ever done in order to become an American. Birthright citizenship is unique in the world. Only Canada and the United States use birthright citizenship. But we're fucking revolutionary anyway, so we change, you got to jump through hoops and you got to do this and do that. Nah, I was born in Covington, Kentucky, so therefore I'm an American, right? In St. Elizabeth, South. I was born in Kentucky. That's all I needed to do to become an American. I didn't need to graduate high school. I didn't need to pass a citizenship test. I didn't have to run a 5-minute mile. I didn't have to do 50 push-ups. I didn't have to do a fucking thing. I was just born here. And so now I'm an American, right? So those are the people that are Americans. We're a nation state. So those people who are in the 50 nifty United States, those people who are part of the 16 territories ought to be citizens, but I guarantee you that most probably aren't, probably 3 or 4. I want to say Guam and Puerto Rico, and Puerto Ricans are nationals, so I think they're citizens. Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Virgin Islands, I don't know. But they should be citizens. They're Americans. They're American islands. They're American territories. So why would American territories not be filled with a bunch of Americans? It seems like we're just trying to piss those people off. And then the military bases. Get 900 military bases in 150 countries. So we got military bases all over the world. John McCain was born on a military base. Anybody that's on a military base, anybody in those territories, and most definitely, anybody in the 50 nifty United States are, if you're born on this soil, you're an American, and that's all you got to do. So again, that's the 14th Amendment, and it changed the Article 1, Section 2, and the 26th Amendment changed the 14th. But here is the 14th Amendment, the verbiage, okay? All persons born or naturalized in the U.S. and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the U.S. and of the state wherein they reside. So our birthright citizenship says that I was a Kentucky citizen and an American citizen in 1982 when I was born. So all persons born or naturalized in the U.S., all persons born or naturalized in the U.S. are citizens of the U.S. and the state wherein they reside. So I'm a Coloradan citizen now. They made me cut up my driver's license, so I had to cut up my Kentucky's driver's license to get a Colorado driver's license. The Dred Scott decision was reversed by the 14th Amendment. The Civil Rights Act of 1866 said all citizens not subject to any foreign power were citizens of the United States, and that further enshrined into our Constitution, black men were now people. They were citizens. Just solely, some Latin phrase which means right of the territory does not exist in most of Europe, Asia, or the Middle East. So birthright citizenship is unique in the modern world. Only Canada and the United States, most of Europe, Asia, and the Middle East does not do it. All children born in the U.S. are born on U.S. soil are U.S. citizens, with very few exceptions. It's a part of English common law, and jus soli is common in the Americas. So the entire Western Hemisphere does birthright citizenship. So, yeah. We're all fucking anchor babies. 329 million anchor babies, okay? Article 1 and 8, clauses 4 and 18, this just talks about who has the right to establish naturalization, citizenship. So Article 1 talks about the legislative powers that are given to Congress. Article 1, Section 8, the powers of Congress. Clause 4 is to establish a uniform rule of naturalization and uniform laws on bankruptcies. But naturalization, right? Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4 talks about naturalization. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 18 says that the Congress can make all the laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers and all other powers vested by this Constitution and the government of the United States. So therefore, it is up to Congress to write the immigration laws. It is up to Congress. The buck stops with the Gipper, so these congressmen and senators get away with all this shit because nobody's really, it's hard to pay attention to all 435 legislatures, or 535, 435 in the House and 100 in the Senate, so that's 500. We got to pay attention to 520. I guess that's not too bad. We can memorize 500 people. If you're a player in Washington, D.C., I bet you most of those motherfuckers know every single one of them. So I want to make a quick comment about obstructionism. So, hey, Republicans, obstructionism is a bitch, ain't it? Oh, my God. Obstructionism is a bitch. Hey, you got the president who, you know, maybe he's trying to, in his heart, doing what he said. It was a campaign promise, right? So that was basically one of his policies. It sure as fuck is. Obstructionism is a bitch. You obstructionist, reactionary sons of bitches, pieces of shit, shouldn't have fucked with Obama as hard as you did. Guess you fuckers shouldn't have cheated when it comes to denying health care for Americans. Healthcare is life. It's life. If you care about your own house so goddamn much, why wouldn't you care about the health of your children? I'm still waiting for that Republican health care bill. Yeah, let's just get on the same page. Let's get a health care bill out there. We need a comprehensive immigration bill. We need comprehensive everything bill. Let's redo our Constitution. We need to have the same Constitution that we all listen to. So Obamacare actually was a capitalist health care plan, so these right-wing Republican welfare capitalists didn't even go with the capitalist health care plan. Hillary Care, on the other hand, was a socialist health care plan. I want a socialist health care plan. I want a Bernie Care, Tulsi Care, or AOC Care. So because the Republicans were obstructionist pieces of shit, you know, they could have come up with their own ideas. If Mitch McConnell had a health care plan, he would have got it. But instead of participating in building America with the president, with a Democratic black president, instead Mitch McConnell blindfolded Barack H. Obama, and then when the economy goes to shit, he was planning on blaming him when the Titanic sunk into the Atlantic Ocean. And be like, see, the damn captain didn't know how to steer the damn ship. The damn captain don't know how to steer the damn ship because he was blindfolded by you motherfuckers and the economy didn't crash. I mean, there were some, I'm 50-50 on Obama, so it's not like I was a slam dunk. It's not like I liked everything that he did. I resented that he kept going back to the Republicans and saying, hat in hand, you know, will you please work with me? Can we get something done? Please, Republicans, let's get something done here. And they spit in his face, they slapped his hand out of the way, and they said, fuck you, fuck America, we're going to play politics. Stupid-ass Americans are going to elect Donald Trump, and then they're going to try to kick, you know, they'll go ahead and keep Mitch McConnell, and they'll kick out the damn... So, it worked. Obstructionist politics works. So, yeah, good. Good for the Democrats. I'm happy that they're obstructing this wall. I'm not anti-wall per se. You know, walls are good for keeping out the elements. Walls are good for specific property lines. The San Diego Wall is working. The Great Wall of China is working for now. I heard it was actually built by the Mongolians, and then I forget what it was. I've heard they switched. So it is possible that somebody could come in America and they just take over this land, and then that would be their wall. I'm not anti-wall per se. I'm anti-Donald Trump's wall. I'll give Bernie Sanders his wall, that without question. You know what? Bernie Sanders wants a wall? Yeah, give him fucking $20 billion. Make sure the Bernie Sanders wall is badass. And, you know, I don't like the wall because I like that I can drive all over the United States, all 50 states. If you're in Montana, you could drive to Florida, no walls, no barriers, no border patrol. You don't have to go through this, show your ID and all that shit. You just get to go where you want to go. So I would love to actually adopt South America into the United States of America. Let's have a bunch of referendums on all those countries, and they can vote for themselves if they want to become an American state. Puerto Rico voted to become an American state, so I think Puerto Rico should be the first American state that we adopt. I mean, all they got to do is what? Just something with Congress and then amendments, get so many amendments or something to become a state. I would like 100 American states better than 50. Would you rather a $100 bill or a $50 bill? So I'm kicking ass here. I'm going to talk now about the economics report. So we're the second largest economy in the world, beating India in spite of their huge-ass population. China beats us in population. China beats us in the economics. So what's going on in America? The economic report of America is 40,000 Americans die every year because of a lack of health care. How much bloodshed must we endure before we get universal health care? 40,000 Americans? That's half of the people that died in Vietnam. Half of the Americans that died in Vietnam. 75,000 Americans died in Vietnam. 4 million Vietnamese and Cambodians. So 4 million Southeast Asians. There is a report about a homeless person being fined $652 for sleeping in a bus shelter. So there's a way to fuck people up, right? He's homeless. Let's go ahead and give him a $652 ticket because he needed a warm place to sleep. There's some places in Florida that have outlawed giving food to the homeless. Yeah, 75% are Christians, but it seems like, what the fuck? How can a Christian nation make giving food to the homeless illegal? How can a Christian nation charge a homeless man $652 for sleeping in a bus shelter? Bus shelter, that's a government. It's government property. It's not it should be the people's. So the unemployment rate is low. If you use the U3 unemployment rate, the unemployment rate rose, however, 0.2% December 2018 last month to 3.9%. From a 49-year low of 3.7%. So this is super low unemployment. When they brag about having low unemployment, they're right for the most part. That's 839,000 Americans are jobless. That's according to the U3. The U3 has 3 indicators when it comes to the unemployment rate, 3 groups of people that they count. The U5 adds discouraged workers, and the U6 adds those workers who are part-time purely for economic reasons, meaning that the people who want to work full-time but they only got part-time, that is an unemployed person. So the U6 unemployment rate is 7.6%. 7.6% is bad. 5%, according to my macroeconomics professor at the University of Louisville, according to my macroeconomics professor, 5% of unemployment is all that we can tolerate. Just 5% of unemployment. So 5% is that's the goal, to get under 5%. 3.9% is under that using the U6 unemployment rate, but the U3 says that we're at 7.6, which is over the 5% unemployment rate. Now, in terms of all the Americans, you got 329 million Americans total. The total population, 329 million. Out of those 329 million, 126 million are employed. 126 million are employed. That's 38%. Only 38% of Americans have a job. 203 million Americans are not employed. 62% of Americans are not employed. That's the real unemployment rate. 62%. 203 million Americans don't have a job. So 203 million Americans, you'll say, oh, but the old and the kids and this and that, yeah, whatever. But the actual unemployment rate, right? You all got to get a job, work or die. Well, 62% of Americans have figured out some way to not work for some piece of shit boss, right? Some piece of shit corporation. I'd rather work 100 hours for myself than 40 hours for somebody else. So that's also, the unemployed would also be business owners. You don't have a job, right? You're the owner of the business. You give out jobs, but you're not employed by anybody. So the unemployment rate only consists of those folks looking for work, so it's decent. The unemployment rate's not bad. It is a good bragging point. If I was the president, I would brag about it too, but it's not as rosy as he says it is, 7.6%, so it's actually higher. And overall, 62%. That means most Americans ain't doing, not they ain't doing shit, but they ain't got a job. So $62,500 per American. The GDP per capita, every American produces $62,500 worth of wealth. If you're not creating anything, if you're not creating $62,500, then you're not doing your part, because that means some Americans are making $100,000 worth of GDP, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 worth of GDP per American. So per American, every American is, when you divide it all up between